I can't hear you now.
There we go.
Yeah, now I can hear you.
We're hanging out with Dr. Jim Kavanaugh. How's that? Let's talk. Hello, Garland Nixon here. We're hanging out with Dr. Jim Kavanaugh. You can find all of his good work at his Substack, and of course, follow him online. Jim, I think we got one or two things to talk about.
No, probably.
Let me find first. I probably should have found it before, but let's find. Let's see, Trump. We got to see this video. Pfizer, of all things. Something that's near and dear to our hearts. Here's part of a video. So Trump is schmoozing with the Pfizer people. Poor old. I actually, to be honest with you, felt bad for. Okay, here we go. Let's see. Here's Trump in the Oval Office with the Pfizer schmucks. I'm not doing so good, Jim. I'm blanking out the screen. Yeah. I'm struggling to find Trump. I don't know what's going on here, but let us peep at Donald Trump and listen.
We are ready to invest, as the president also mentioned, $7 billion in the next few years from Pfizer in manufacturing and research in America alone. I really think this is an historical moment because also I can put that behind us and focus on the things that I want to spend my time, cancer treatments, to bring better obesity medicines, to bring better vaccines, to bring things that people value. And thank you for allowing it.
Well, Jim, isn't that just fantastic? We got better obesity medicines like Ozempic, the fat shot, as Trump calls it. We got better vaccines. Boy, that's a wonderful thing. You and we can't get enough. In fact, for those of you who haven't been watching YouTube, Jim and I actually just got our boosters before we came on today because, boy, you talk about safe and effective. What the hell, Jim? Trump, we're going to stand up to Pfizer. I brought JFK, all this crap. And now he's got Trump RX making money off Pfizer.
Yeah. Let's not forget that is like $50 to $100 million in his branding for this, whatever Trump RX is. It's a disgrace. And again, this is another thing where he's losing his MAGA base, like he's losing it with Israel and he's losing it with the Epstein files. Look, he brought RFK in on this, and RFK brought a lot of people with him on this. There were a lot of people, who came and said, I'll vote for Trump because he's going to let RFK do that work in the HHS that RFK is doing. And full disclosure, I've been on the vaccine issue for at least 10 years, okay, before Donald Trump breathed a political breath. And I've been following, and I've been a admirer of what RFK Jr. was doing on the vaccine issue. He's right about that in general, and he's took crap from it, and he's been on the right path with that. He and I would just really recommend people watch Aaron Siri at work. He's this lawyer who really knows this up and down. So I'm not against at all RFK's vaccine program in general. I wrote a 10,000 word essay on the COVID vaccines against vaccine passports called Danger to Society. You can look it up on my Substack. In 2021, when the mandates were starting, Danger to Society against vaccine passports. Bobby Kennedy read it. I have a friend who is a friend of Bobby Kennedy, who actually worked for his father. Bobby Kennedy read it, and he emailed me about it. He liked it very much. Talking about having me on his podcast. So full disclosure about that. I don't like Bobby Kennedy's politics on Israel. I wrote about him, an article called I wrote about whether he should RFK's chances, and then I wrote about him when he went on the Trump team, an article called Bobby's Bounce. And I said in that article that I can see Bobby's, and he said, I have 10 years left. I want to get this done. I'm sure he made a deal with Trump. Trump told him, I'll give you, you can do anything you want in HHS. He's got his block of voters. But I said, Donald Trump is not really on, he doesn't care. He doesn't know really what Bobby Kennedy's program is about vaccines and about health and about MAHA, about making America healthy, about chronic disease. Donald Trump doesn't care about that. He wants those votes. But at the end of the day, Bobby Kennedy is likely to actually have his program tainted by association with Trump. And he probably would have been better off being an independent, not supporting Biden and saying and pursuing his program. Now let's see what happens. Bobby Kennedy's going to be out of there. As I said in the article, he's going to end up like Scaramucci because the people around Donald Trump that he really respects are the money people. They're all interested in the pharmaceuticals. Look what's happened. Trump got up and said, "Oh, I'm also talking to Eli Lilly, blah, blah, blah." So this is going to go even deeper, right? And Trump got up and said, "Oh, these COVID vaccines are the greatest. I'm honored to be here with Albert Bourla, the president of Pfizer. Those COVID vaccines were great." And I'm telling you, nobody who was on Bobby Kennedy himself. I mean, people are posting Twitter tweets with Bobby Kennedy's tweet when the guy who does the videos, the gotcha videos,
James O'Keefe.
O'Keefe, yeah. When O'Keefe got that Pfizer scientist, and admitted all kinds of crap about that, Bobby Kennedy tweeted, "Well, here it is. We see in this what a corrupt, morally bankrupt company Pfizer is." And now, yesterday, he tweets out, "Oh, it was so nice to be up there with Albert Bourla." Although, if you look at his face behind Trump, it's like looks like he's going to throw up. But anyway, so this is a disgrace. This is another indication that, you get involved with Trump. He's interested in nothing but himself. He's interested in nothing but enriching himself and telling everybody and everybody around him, kissing his ass and telling him he's the greatest thing since sliced bread, which Bobby Kennedy has been doing. And it's terrible. And watch, Maha Twitter yesterday was like, what the hell is this? Bobby Kennedy sold out. He's blah, blah. So really, Kennedy has not only Trump, but Kennedy has corrupted himself and compromised himself to such a degree because he can't go after the COVID vaccines. Look at John Campbell's, look at what's happening with these COVID vaccines around the world. Look at Dr. John Campbell, look at some of his stuff on this. So anyway, Bobby Kennedy's now stuck. And I suspect he's going to end up having either to resign because he can't maintain any kind of integrity in this situation, or he's going to end up getting thrown out if he tries to go after the things he should go after. So it's a terrible situation, but in a larger context, it's, as I say, it's like Epstein and like Israel. A lot of the people who voted for Trump because they thought he'd do something, he was going to be transformative, he was going to defeat the deep state, he was going to keep us out of wars, he was going to clean the swamp, drain the swamp. He's part of the swamp. He's a swamp creature. He's surrounded himself with the entire crew from Bill Gates to Zuckerberg, Elon Musk, everyone now, Bourla and the pharmaceuticals. He's a swamp creature. He thrives on the swamp, and he gets rich off the swamp, and that's what he's doing. And people are realizing, and it's terrible because the Democrats don't give you much of an alternative at all. People were fed up with the Democrats, corrupt. I had so many people on my Substack who were like, I'm from the left. I'm a liberal, whatever, but I really think Donald Trump, they're afraid of him. He must be dangerous in some way. He must have be going to do something right because the establishment is so much against him that he must be threatening to them. He's not threatening to them at all. He's only threatening to them. The real threat he poses is that he's too blatantly corrupt and too blatantly narcissistic and too obvious in his he doesn't give you the nice sweet talk that Obama gives you. He gives you, oh, well, let's kill everybody and let me make some money and tell me I'm the greatest guy in the world. Obama's giving you, oh, I'm here for peace and love. So that's the difference. And just like Obama, a lot of people, Obama's going to change everything. Obama came in and Obama designated Venezuela a national security threat. We'll get to that, but Obama was the first one who did that. And Obama came in and he could have given us single payer health care. Nope. I want this right-wing Heritage Foundation plan that's a subsidy to the insurance companies. And now the Democrats are fighting over giving these payments are subsidies to the insurance companies. That's what they are, because Obama, and I'll say it very clearly, Obama stopped single payer healthcare. We would have single payer healthcare right now if Barack Obama had wanted it. He was opposed to it and he fought it. And the Republicans didn't and couldn't stop him. There was not one Republican vote. The Democrats controlled all three branches of government. And if Barack Obama had been serious about that and intent on it and disciplined his party and whipped them into shape he had a bigger mandate politically than Donald Trump has. He could have gotten, and all of the people in his party were claiming they wanted it. A lot of them anyway. He could have whipped that vote and gotten it. He didn't do that, not because the Republicans were against it, but because he was against it. And so that's why we have this ACA, which is a program for subsidizing the health insurance industry. And the premiums are only affordable because the government pays some of them to the health insurance industry and subsidizes their profits. And now you're going to have a fight over that, which is ridiculous. Democrats should be fighting for single payer universal coverage healthcare. They're not. So all of this is a mess. So Donald Trump is proving to people who thought, just like all these people from progressives, Barack Obama's going to change everything. No, he didn't. He got us in 7 wars. He didn't. He bailed out the banks and threw people out of their homes, and that's what he did. And a lot of people on progressives, leftists, liberal, Barack Obama. No, Barack Obama drove people out of the Democratic Party. 1,000 state legislative seats were lost under Obama administration. Since his reign, people have been leaving the Democratic Party and moving to Trump, and that's what's happened. And then they said, Trump is going to do this. They were so fed up with the Democrats, rightfully so, that they voted for Trump in the hope that he would do something. And now you see what he's doing. He's not doing anything for anybody but himself and Israel. And that's his program. It's going to be his program. And we see it. And this is another betrayal of what people thought they might be getting when they voted for Donald Trump.
Well, and that's why I named this Trump's channel. He's channeling his inner Biden. Look, Biden was blatantly corrupt. The whole Hunter Biden stuff and all of the money that Hunter Biden was going around scooping up and getting all of this money. And then Trump tried to put, this laptop with Hunter Biden. And he was right. He was right. Everything he said about the laptop, he was right. But here's the only difference. And that is that Trump don't have a son who's a crackhead who has stupid enough to put everything on a laptop. Trump, here's the difference. He does it right in front of your face.
Right in front of you. He's not hiding anything.
Hey, Trump RX, buy Pfizer, love him, blah, blah, blah. And he doesn't try to hide. He's like, hey, this is what I'm doing. I'm trying to eat here. Get out of the way. I'm trying to get some money, right? And ultimately, he's, I put it this way, not long after Trump started doing his 180s, I said this. Trump didn't come into American politics the same way as Obama. They wanted to act like he came into American politics and he was going to change it. He came out of American politics. He was something that American politics produced. It produced Obama. Yeah. Obama was out there. Next thing you know, apparently Big New Brzezinski discovered him. He's wandering around being a so-called community organizer. And he runs for Congress. And wouldn't you know it, I don't know if you remember this, Obama ran for Congress and he was running against an incumbent. And the incumbent ran into, mysteriously, this sex charges or something. Do you remember that?
No,
he was running against this guy and some sex charges came out that the guy was involved in some kind of a sex club or multi-sex, like it always seems to, like the CIA stuff always comes out, and that guy had to drop out and then Obama won. Shockingly, right?
Yeah.
Obama's in. He's Mr. I'm going to do the hope and change. He gets in. He's Wall Street. You know, and so Trump, it's like now Trump is the Republicans' version of Obama. Oh, he's coming in. Remember this? I'm going to stop the neocons. I'm going to take out the warmongers. I'm going to end all of that.
Yeah.
And now what do we have? He did the same thing he did the last time he was in. He loaded his cabinet with Zionists, neocons, warmongers. And, you know, now, I mean, he's like, the only question is, which country does he attack first? First. Not that he's not going to attack them both, but first. And so now here we sit with, you know, Mr. Warp Speed, Operation Warp Speed.
Yep.
That was his thing, Operation Warp Speed. And he's still, let me add this. There's a video, let me see. Well, I won't go through all of that. But the bottom line is, Trump literally says Pfizer did a great job with the COVID. Yes, they worked with COVID. They did a great job. Great. And we're like watching all of these studies where people, you know, are higher rates of cancer and all kinds of unthinkable heart issues, you name it. And Trump's like, they did a great job. What does he care?
Yeah. You got kids, 7, 8-year-old kids with colon cancer and pancreatic. People have never seen this before. So this is something, again, and everybody, and the Democrats did this. They turned this into a political thing, and you're a Trumper. I'm sorry. I'm not a person of the right. I'm not a Trumper. This is a scientific issue that you have to understand and study and look at the history and the science and the evidence of it. And it's not something from the right or the left. They turned everything into this is a horrible thing. And we need, you know, Bobby Kennedy was a Democratic liberal, like many other people. In fact, it's a classic case. Bobby Kennedy was a Democratic liberal, standard Democratic liberal. All of these doctors, Malone, McCullough, Makary, these guys were all Democratic liberals. And they said, there's something wrong here. And they were treated like monsters. They were treated by the Democratic Party as if, oh, you're a Trumper. And they drove a lot of these people into the arms of Donald Trump. And on many kind of issues, that's what happened. They drove people into the arms on free speech, which again, Trump promised. Oh yeah, because the Democrats were out there trying to. They were censoring everybody. The White House was calling up Twitter and daily, insisting on them, take this guy off Twitter, take this guy down. And they did this whole thing. Joe Biden developed the framework of domestic terrorism. And they tried to use it against protesters. The January 6th protesters were seditionists. They were insurrectionists. They were protesting the election. They had the right to do that. And they sent them in jail for 30 years, 20 years. So the tables are turned on them, and Trump is using it, and he's going further with it. But, you know, this is the point. The Democrats have no credibility on this at all. Nobody has any credibility who supported that crap if they don't say, I was absolutely wrong about that. And, you know, they weren't, and they're not going to say that. They'll never admit it. Never admit they were wrong about COVID mandates. They were wrong about COVID lockdown. They'll never admit they were wrong about trying to censor free speech. They'll never admit it. So who's going to listen to them? And Donald Trump is going full steam ahead, and he you know, he's got now the worst people around him, the Stephen Millers and this Russell Vogt. These are terrible people. They're out to destroy the country, and they are going to do it. And you got the opportunist Vance, who also changed his tune from Trump is Hitler to Trump is the greatest guy in the world.
Peter Thiel's guy. Peter Thiel, the Palantir, the son of Palantir.
Yeah. And Trump is he's going to bring AI. He's going to bring ultimately probably maybe a digital ID. He's going to bring this stuff. He's putting the country in the hands of the Zionists, in the hands of the pharmaceutical industry now, and in the hands of these AI PayPal bros and AI tech bros who are going to have a surveillance state. That's what many people on the right have been talking about. The World Forum, you know, the surveillance state, the kind of thing that goes on in Britain now. Britain's going to do a digital ID, and the censorship laws in Britain are terrible. J.D. Vance never says anything about that. He talks about it if it's against Christians. But when Palestinian protests, I saw a thing yesterday. It was hysterical. Well, I want to say it's hysterical, but it's not. A guy at a demonstration in Britain, and he goes up to the cops, and he says, I'm in favor of genocide. I'm in favor of killing babies. I'm in favor of burning women and children to death. Is that all right? Can I say that? And the cop says, well, yes, you have freedom of speech. And then the cop goes and arrests someone holding a sign saying, I'm against genocide. And I support Palestine action. And the guy is going, I can come out here and I can proclaim, he was not for genocide, but I can go up to the cop and say, I'm in favor of genocide. I'm in favor of burning children to death. And the policeman says to me, that's freedom of speech. But this 80-year-old woman with a sign saying I'm against genocide, they're going to arrest. That's what's going on in Britain now. And J.D. Vance never going to say a word about it. And it's disgraceful. So this is what you got when you voted for Donald Trump. As I said it to people about Obama, and I'm saying it about Trump. And I hope the people who voted for Trump don't stay, wrapped and ravished and on the Trump train to the extent that many people still stay on the Democratic liberals have this idea that, if we get back to Obama, it'd be great. No, it wouldn't. And
if Kamala had won, we'd be at brunch.
Yeah,
No,
exactly.
Yeah. We'd be in just as bad a shape as we are now, if not worse.
Well, it might be different, maybe a little worse this way, a little better that way. But the point is, they're the same team. It's as you said it with Larry Johnson. I saw your, Larry Johnson. I think you quoted it. No matter who you vote for, you get John McCain. No matter who you vote for, you get BlackRock. You get not Morgan Stanley. The big investment firm. No matter who you vote for, that's what you get. Or who you vote for, you get capitalism, imperialism, and Zionism. And you get politicians who are going to defend those things at your expense, at the expense of the American people.
And, I still have people calling in on my radio show talking about, oh, yes, well, and you still have these people that are brainwashed. Well, there's two parties. You got to choose one of them. And I'm like, no, I don't. And first of all, there isn't two parties. It's like, we need a third party. We need a second party.
Yeah.
We have one party. It's one party rule, and it is clearly minority rule. What Americans, we still got people, sadly, we got some Democrats just wishing for the good old days when Joe Biden was here, right? Then, or remember this? That Joe Biden's running, and we're like, that guy's a lunatic. He's insane. He's a warmonger. You can't put him in office. Oh no, we'll arrest him. We'll get him in office, and then we'll drag him to the left. Remember that? We're like, drag him to the left. He's been where he is for the last 70 years. And now you're going to drag him to the left? That ain't happening. Oh yeah, we got to get him in. We got to drag him to the left. They got him in, and he did what. But here's what he knew: they were going to support him anyway because it's a brainwashed cult. Because parties, in my opinion, now are cults. They don't believe in things based on information, empirical evidence, or data. They believe in things. I mean, they're back to believing things as a matter of faith.
Yep.
That's the way it seems to me. It's just as a matter of faith. Well, Trump's good. He's going to do good things. Well, when's he going to start?
Yeah. This is, what do we want? Incremental change. When do we want it? Oh, sometime in, that's what you're at. And there's no time for that. The country's in a disastrous state. First of all, the war situation. We're facing multiple war situations, and nobody's going to stop this. Again, there was a thing in terms of the socioeconomic state of the country. People can't afford the rent. I think 50% of the population has now 5% of the wealth. But Elon Musk just became the first man to be worth $500 billion. And that's wealth and power. That's why we had 94% tax rates in 1946, because it was to prevent inequality. When you have that much inequality of wealth, you have that inequality of power. Elon Musk was given control of the federal government and allowed to go through it with his chainsaw and destroy thousands and thousands of jobs and programs. And these people, Peter Thiel and Larry Ellison, now buying every media company in the country on behalf of Israel. This is wealth is power.
Look at this, Jim. America is a psyop. Larry Ellison vetted Marco Rubio for fealty to Israel. Newly leaked correspondence show Oracle billionaire Larry Ellison vetted Marco Rubio's loyalty to Israel back in 2015, arranging meetings with Israeli diplomats and Tony Blair before Rubio emerged as a GOP star. Ellison later poured millions into Rubio's campaign and remains one of Israel's biggest backers. And there you go. There's an email.
Wow.
Boom. Vetted Marco Rubio, a new drop site. Larry Ellison vetted Rubio. And that's the bottom line. And that's what people have to understand. And that is, you think, oh, I'm a Democrat and I'm voting, or I'm a Republican. You get no say. They don't represent you. They represent Larry Ellison. Somebody should be saying, oh, he can't buy TikTok and Paramount and HBO and CBS. Or he can't buy. No, nobody's going to say that. They're going to call Larry Ellison and say, can you send me a check for my campaign, please, sir?
Yep. Look, this is that study, I think 2014, Princeton and Northwestern University, they did a study of the issues and the programs, what the people wanted, the issues that the people supported, the policies that the people supported, and the policies that the donors supported, and the policies that were enacted. Always what the donors supported get enacted. What the people support doesn't make any difference. And in terms of the Zionist influence, there was a woman, a young woman who tweeted the thing. It was very interesting. Her father was a state senator who went on this trip to Israel, 50 states and one Israel, where they had politicians from state assembly and state senate. And this woman was the daughter of this state senator. And she tweeted this thing. Why is my father, who's just a state senator, being taken on this trip to Israel and being wined and dined and being given this big, fancy reception in Israel? Well, that's because the Israelis dig deep into American politics and they buy them off from the beginning. And I had an article from when Tom Hayden died. Tom Hayden was an old SDS guy from the 70s. And when he ran, he was a big radical SDSer. But when he ran for state assembly in California, he had to be taken by Howard Berman, who was the state senator, was the U.S. senator. He had to be taken to the Israeli consul in L.A., and he had to be vetted by the Israeli consul to be allowed to run by the Democratic Party for the state assembly in California. This is in the 70s, okay? And when he talked about it later, and he said it was one of the things he was most ashamed of in his life, that he went through this process of vetting by the Israeli government in order to be allowed to run in the Democratic Party for state senate in California. So that's been going on for 50 years, at least in the United States. They go down, the Zionists, and they get their grips into people in state politics. Barack Obama was taken under the wing of the Fitzgers in Chicago and in Illinois. And so, these are all, people have to realize this. Jimmy Carter said it. We don't live in a democracy. We live in an oligarchy with unlimited bribery. That's what we have. And if we don't do something about that radically and by any means necessary, that's what you're going to get. And you're going to get war, and you're going to get in poverty. You're not going to be able to afford your health care. You're not going to be able to afford your rent. You're not going to be able to buy a house. Your children won't be able to afford to go to school. And the Israelis will get everything they want. The right-wing governments in Latin America and anywhere else in the world get everything they want. We'll have wars with NATO in Europe, NATO and Russia, and you'll be sitting there being egged on to hate immigrants or hate trans people or hate white people or hate MAGA or hate Maha or hate,
the unvaccinated
or whatever.
You left out the unvaccinated. Remember,
anti-vaxxers, unvaccinated. Yeah. Jimmy Kimmel, wanted to kill all the unvaccinated. Don't let them into hospitals. This is the kind of crap we're in. You want to play that game, play that game. It's a bunch of crap. And you're only being fooled by it. And if you don't see this with what's happening with Trump now,
Here's the thing. Okay. All this business about make America first, right? Okay. Trump now, what was it recently? 90 billion or something for Ukraine. Have you heard about that? The 90 billion okayed for Ukraine. Is
that what they're saying? The NATO's going to buy that $90 billion, or?
Yeah, well,
Point is, America funds NATO by 75% of NATO budget comes to the United States. So.
Ukraine has announced the 90 billion arms agreement with the United States, which includes purchase. But they ain't buying that crap.
They're not buying anything.
We're giving them every dime. We're paying the salary of the sweet streepers in Ukraine.
I know,
Like they're going to get, no, that's at least 50 of it or 60 is coming out of our pockets because Europe's broken. They don't have it. Let's start there. Oh, by the way, Trump wants to buy this area called the Zanzor Corridor, which is like in Armenia, and he's offered $50 billion. Oh, wait a minute. I recently read that somewhere in the last, since the start of the genocide, America has provided in the neighborhood of $78 billion.
Yeah.
Okay. You heard of Malay, who all of the, a lot of the, what do you call them? The libertarians were like, oh, Milay's great. He's going to make this country great and wonderful. We're like, he seems like a weirdo. And the fact of the matter is, as soon as he got elected, he went straight to Wall Street and started kissing the butts of the Wall Street people. And I'm like, and you guys think he's your savior? Well, they're $20 billion in a hole right now, broke, and Trump's going to bail them out. Start doing the math. Oh, wait a minute. He added $150 billion to the military budget. $150 billion there. $20 billion in Malay. 90. Let's just give him $50 billion more to Ukraine. Right? Yeah. He wants to do $50 billion to Armenia or some damn where. Right? I mean, when you start looking at it, all that, oh, we've got to be reasonable with our money, make America great again, and bring this blah, 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 blah. You're at like $250 billion, $250 billion, and he's been in office for less than a year.
Yeah.
$250 billion.
Yeah. The Argentina thing is wonderful because China, the United States, American farmers sold like $15 billion worth of soybeans to China last year. They sold zero this year because Trump played this game with China. China is saying, we don't need you anymore. Where are they buying? Where are they buying their soybeans from now? Brazil and Argentina. So Trump is going to give $20 billion to Argentina to bail out, and he's doing it because Milei is a right-wing libertarian, and
that's all.
Everybody,
and he's kissing the butt of Wall Street. Milei, as soon as he got, I guarantee you, he's selling that country out again. Ask Paul Singer about the past. He's selling that country out again, the entire country, to Wall Street. That's why they're doing that. The reason they're bailing him that $20 billion out is because they're getting $500 billion in thievery.
Yeah. But like this word libertarian is a funny word. Everybody, Americans are kind of libertarian, socially libertarian, live and let live. That's a kind of thing people like. So libertarian is a word that and a kind of concept that's attractive to people, and it is. But this kind of radical economic Ayn Rand libertarian structure of society and social is disastrous. And Milei is the proof of it. He came in and in 2 years he's destroyed the country economically. He's coming hat in hand. Supposedly he's the chainsaw. He was up there with the chainsaw with Musk and Doge, and he was supposed to be the guy. Watch what he does to Argentina. His policies. He gets on with the whiteboard and goes through agencies and programs and out with this, done with this, cut this. That's what he thinks is going to help the economy. No, it isn't. It's going to destroy the economy. It has destroyed Argentina's economy. So they come to the United States begging. They come to Wall Street. They come to the IMF. And Trump is going to give them $20 billion. That's going to help Argentina sell soybeans. That's going to allow them to sell soybeans to China. So it's not China. The whole anti-China thing, the whole save money thing, it all goes away when it's about saving a right-wing authority leader in Latin America. And they're saying, Trump is saying, the reason we got to give him $20 billion is we want to help him get reelected. So this is a political thing, has nothing to do with whether it's economically feasible or whether it has any help to the United States. Is because the United States still, part of the job of the president of the United States is to be the guarantor of capitalist rule in the world, to back up right-wing capitalist regimes in the world. That's why you got to go after Cuba. That's why you got to go after Venezuela. What has Cuba or Venezuela done to the American people? What threat do they pose? Because they have some kind of anti-capitalist or vaguely, in the case of Venezuela, semi-socialist message, you got to kill all those regimes. You got to regime change those regimes. That's something people have to realize. The president of the United States has the job, and in the Cold War that was clear, but it's still true, of being the guarantor, the backup of capitalist rule in the world. That's anti-democratic. That's the rule of the elite, the oligarchic elite of every other society. They have to stop democratic movements from taking over the economies of their societies. And the president of the United States has that job. And nobody is being nominated for president of the United States by the Democratic Republican Party who doesn't understand that and take it on. So
exactly. And if you look at it, look at what's happening, this business. Remember, Biden did this thing. It was called the something of democracies. I don't know what it was. And he even had this thing every year where all the quote democracies would come together, right? I forget. Remember that he had a group called the something of the Summit of Democracy or the Something of Democracies. So he supposedly bring all those democracies together. Remember that? Look what's happening.
Democracy for their is capitalism. Democracy is
well, even more so. It means complete submission to the empire.
Yes,
because we were told Russia must be stopped, the Soviet Union, because it is a capital socialist, communist, whatever. So they're evil. They must be stopped. So the Russians are no longer socialist. I mean, they have some socialist tendencies, no question, that I'm quite fond of. In fact, having a huge, I'll put it like this, selling their own gas and oil and stuff like that and using those profits to run the government. I think that's a pretty good idea instead of letting ExxonMobil keep it. But at any rate,
yeah.
So now it's not a quote socialist communist. And what do they say? We got to take them out anyway.
Yeah.
It's
got to be compliant. It's got to be compliant.
Except the reason they're doing it is changed. When all the evidence says at the end of the Cold War, Russia said, "Can I join NATO?" They said no. Dr. Sachs said, "Hey, well, we're going to do this to bail out Russia." No. Absolutely not. We'll bail out other people, but not Russia. We've got to destroy Russia. It had nothing to do with some ideological view. It was, we want to rule the world and we have to control this big lump of land and we got to steal everything they got that's not nailed down there. And that's what we got to do. And so now, luckily for Russia, they're not luckily, but fortunately, whatever you want to say it, they're strong enough to defend themselves. But the U.S. will never back off. And Trump and Biden and the rest of them keep these idiots arguing, oh, the Democrats are going to do this. Oh, the Republicans are going to do that. It's like, I put it like this, and you've probably heard the story. I'll make it quick. Frederick Douglass said that when he knew he had to run away, he was 8 or 9 years old, because he didn't really know his age. And he was at one of these local stores in town, a store near where he was, where the slaves were allowed to go in town and get stuff and bring it back. And he said he saw two slaves fighting. And he asked someone, what are they fighting over? And the guy said they're fighting over whose master is the richest and has the biggest house. Yeah. That's the Republicans and the Democrats. Exactly. There are two slaves fighting over whose master is the richest and has the biggest house, because they don't represent you. There's nothing that you're not even allowed to go in the house.
Yeah.
You're not allowed. You'll be beaten if you try to go in that house.
Yeah.
You're a slave. You're worked to death. And that's what the Democrats and the Republicans are fighting over, their masters.
That's what George Carlin said. You don't have political leaders, you have owners. You're owned. And that's what they are. They're your owners. And that's what they want to be. And that's what they consider themselves. And they consider you insects that they can move around like an ant farm, that they can manipulate. So, and they are doing a good job of it. And it's terrible. And, we just, and as I say, you're right. You have to be, in the Cold War, you had to be capitalist. Now you have to be compliant capitalist. You have to be compliant with the American empire. Now it's kind of, Russia is doesn't call itself a socialist country. It's not particularly a socialist country. Well, I don't know what it is, but it's certainly they call themselves a capitalist country, but they're not compliant enough. And they haven't privatized quite enough. And they still have, and China, of course, well, that calls itself a communist country. There are arguments among Marxists whether it's a communist country or a socialist country, or it has some elements of capitalism, but it maintains tight control. It maintains tight control, state control of the situation, public control, and the wealth of the country is and the production of the country is oriented toward purpose, social purpose, not profit. Profit is the profit motive is there, but it's held in check in a certain way by the public authority. And we don't like that. That's communist. So, but look, the other thing you can watch very clearly, in the line of the capitalist countries, in the political line during the Cold War. Wow, we have freedom of speech. We have freedoms. These are authoritarian dictatorships. Well, that's all gone away. No more freedom of speech in the West. The Western countries are doing away with freedom of speech. They don't. Once the so-called post-capitalist, the communist socialist USSR went away, the European social democracy started to go away, and the so-called freedom of speech and freedom of expression and the rights that are supposedly part of the liberal capitalist order started to go away, and they're gone away, and they're going away because they don't really care about those. Those were useful talking points and useful things to have around to kind of make people as poles of attraction against the so-called communist countries. Now they don't care anymore. They're going to do what they want. Nobody in Europe wants to go to war with Russia, but the EU leadership does. Nobody in this country wants to go to war with Venezuela. For what? For what? Iran? Even the right-wing kids don't want to go to war with Iran. For what? That's not our war. And Iran isn't threatening the United States. They're threatening Israel. They're not even directly threatening Israel. They're just threatening Israel by being there and being strong. Israel doesn't like them, so Israel wants to do away with them. So we got to help Israel do away with them. No, we don't. That's ridiculous. Leave Maduro alone. Leave Venezuela alone. Let them develop the way they want to develop. Let them solve their problems. We're not going to solve their problems with an American military invasion. I guarantee you're not. Did you solve Iraq's problems? Did you solve Libya's problems? Did you solve Syria's problems with military invasions? It's a mess. And so, but people have to get up and stop putting up with this crap. Have to stop putting up with this crap. Larry Johnson, I saw you with him, and he was very good. So those generals sitting there, some of them should have gotten up and said, this is not the army. This is not what I do. This is not the oath I took. This is not the Constitution of the United States. I'm out of here. Okay. People have to start doing that. Military people have to disobey orders to attack Iran or to attack Venezuela. No, that's not a legal order. That's not but the United States Congress hasn't declared war on Venezuela. This is ridiculous. It's a war of aggression. You have to stop. Somebody has to do it. I just wrote this article called Bury My Heart about, I found out some years back that a distant affinitive relative of mine, not a blood relative, but the great uncle or the uncle of a second cousin once removed, who I found out he got in a Congressional Medal of Honor. And I asked my cousin about it. And he said, yeah, the story is he was in the Indian Wars. You go on the Congressional Medal of Honor website. Most Congressional Medals of Honor were the Civil War, the World War II, and then the Indian Wars, almost as much as World War II. Anyway, but there was this whole story about him that was there was kind of a fake citation that was written about what he did. What he did was he had been involved in a firefight of some kind, very small thing, and they were going to give him the Congressional Medal of Honor for that. And then they were in the commander of the fort said, "Let's go. We're going to go kill massacre this village." Gave orders to go and kill everybody in the village, men and women and children. And this guy said, when he was ordered to kill women and children, "No, I don't do that." So they tried to bring him on a court-martial. That was dismissed, but it was this weird thing where he got a court-martial and a Congressional Medal of Honor, which is part of the problematic of the Indian Wars. Everybody knew what they were doing was wrong. But anyway, point is, not that he was a hero. He was participating in the general genocide anyway, but at some point, some order was given to him where he said, "No, I'm not going to do that." And these generals who sat before Hegseth and Trump said, "Well, none of this stupid rules of engagement stuff." And Trump going, "We're going to go in American cities and we're going to treat them as the enemy." No, we're not. That's and that's, you have to have people. It would make a big difference if 10 of those generals had stood up and said, "Not me. I'm out of here." That you got to have people saying that, from privates to generals. Stop. I refuse this order, and get on television and say it. And you do have people, there are people who they're not active duty anymore, but there's a woman, I forget her name. She goes to Congress all the time. She's very good. That guy who was he's not a soldier. He was in the
Tony
GA.
Aguilar,
Yeah,
Karen
yeah, he was in the
Kwiatkowski, Dennis
yeah,
Fritz. There's people out there that are retired.
yeah, that,
One of the things I was going to say is this, and let's touch on this. The machine now is pushing harder than ever because a wounded beast is the most dangerous. Because you can see, as most of you all know out there, I just did another Substack where I wrote about Charlie Kirk, and basically, it's one of the things that I had in my article was about a recent poll that conservatives between whatever 20 and 39 or something is now like 50% of them are unhappy with Israel. The numbers are going, it's dramatically going up. Yeah. And my point, I think, was, it has come out that during the last move to attack Iran, Charlie Kirk went to the White House and said to Trump, don't do it. And, the people that support me are unhappy with it. And they don't want a bunch of wars. I mean, whatever you think of Charlie Kirk, he had to express the views of all of these people under him because apparently the heat was getting pretty heavy. And my point was, well, of all of the motives for some unfortunate thing to happen to Charlie Kirk, they're planning on doing Iran again. And he could be problematic if he was still around to run his mouth a little too much and say, hey, we shouldn't do this. And I got this huge organization. But now that problem has been eliminated. And one could look at that and say, that's a potential motive. Someone, I'm not going to say who, what country, that rhymes with Smizrael, may, somehow think, hey, this guy's in a way and we're trying to attack Iran and we can't have him running his yap.
Yeah, it's to their advantage not to have him around anymore. It's so that's true. It's a good point because that was the one thing, I didn't know much about Charlie Kirk. I've learned about him since the assassination. Yeah. He clearly was someone who was a right-wing jerk in most of the ways, but he was bristling about the pressure that was on him from the Zionists not to criticize Israel, and he didn't like that. And the single most important thing about that to him was this Iran, don't go to war with Iran. Yes. I think that was the case. And I think he did apparently go to talk to Trump specifically about this. And I think, he kind of let Trump get away with the 12-day war because it wasn't too bad. The Americans didn't get much involved. He justified that to himself. But I don't think, from what I know, I think it's reasonable to think that he would have really rejected the war with Iran that's coming, the full-scale war with Iran that's coming, the Americans getting involved in it. And to that extent...
And how about this, Jim? And that could have an influence on Trump. If he's pushing him, saying, hey, MAGA's not happy, man. You can't do this. I got to come out. They're squeezing me. And Tucker Carlson and all, and, you've got people coming from all directions saying, Trump, don't do it, don't do it. Trump is. It could influence them. They couldn't afford for that to happen, Jim.
I know. Yeah, Trump is so inconsistent and incoherent. And in fact, back in when Trump was president, Trump 1.0, when the Iranians downed an American Reaper, which was an expensive surveillance drone, and there was a tremendous amount of pressure on Trump to attack Iran, and he ordered an attack on Iran. Nobody wants to think about this, neither the Republicans nor the Democrats. Trump ordered an attack on Iran. The ships were there. They were 10 minutes away from launching that attack when Trump called it off. And according to the reporting, Trump called it off because he watched Tucker Carlson, who said, this is a bad idea. And also because some of the generals were telling him, this is a bad idea. But he was influenced by Tucker Carlson. But this was Trump. He ordered the attack on Iran, and then he called it off at the last minute because he watched Tucker Carlson, he listened to some of the generals. So you're absolutely right. It could have been, and they wanted that out of the way. It's better, let's put it this way. It's better for them that the possibility of Charlie Kirk calling Trump and saying, don't do this is out of the way. And it is out of the way. And but I think at the end of the day, frankly, the Israelis want to attack Iran. They're going to do it, and they're going to get the Americans to do it. And Charlie Kirk and Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson are not going to stop them. They'll get Trump to do that. There's a slight possibility that he wouldn't, but I would
But
not.
let's just say they've conveniently eliminated one of the factors that could
Yes,
cause them a problem. They
exactly.
saw that, and in a lot of ways too, because not just in that, but that's one of the ways. But that, they need cannon fodder, and these 18 to 39-year-olds are the ones that they want to start a war with Iran, whatever. Say, hey guys, draft, join up. We'll send you over here to die for Israel in the friggin' deserts of the Middle East. That is potential cannon fodder. That's what they need there. And in the long run, they don't need this. This is the problem for them. That is a group that they need to keep their claws in. And Charlie Kirk starting to get a little wiggly on them. Well,
Yeah,
he
look,
ain't wiggly no more.
the biggest threat to Israel, perhaps aside from the biggest long-term or even medium-term strategic threat to Israel, the immediate biggest threat to Israel is the military threats from Iran, Hezbollah, Yemen, anybody who has the bravery and the courage to challenge Israel militarily. But the biggest long-term, medium-term strategic threat for Israel is the loss of support of the American people and the emigration of Israeli Jews from Israel, leaving not to come back. And both of those things are happening. And Israel has to try and stop that. And I don't know. And they're going to try and stop the loss of American support by getting rid of voices like Charlie Kirk's one way or another. That is by buying up American social media, American television, by Larry Ellison and all the buying Zionists, buying every channel of communication and in the United States, and they're doing that. So this is what's happening. And whoever got rid of Charlie Kirk got rid of a potential impediment, potential negative influence on the American support for Israel. You now have majority, I think it's a majority of Republican kids under 40 who don't want to support Israel or favor the Palestinians over this. It might be 46%, but I think at any rate, it's a huge change, the plurality. So they're losing certainly the people under 40 of both Republicans, Democrats, conservatives, liberals, etc. And that's a big danger for them. They have to stop it. And they are doing everything they can to stop it.
Jim, are you telling me that you don't believe that a miracle bullet was fired by a trans activist, quick change artist, gun reassembly and disassembly expert, who's deadly accurate, firing one round and conveniently seems to type text with the exact same verbiage that would be used by a 45-year-old law enforcement officer? Are you telling me there's a problem with that story, Jim?
I know. I'm finding we were talking about this on the phone yesterday, and you are a senior law enforcement official, and he said, I felt like I was reading one of the reports that was handed to me. And so it is hysterical. Oh, I saw there was a squad car still. I got to get back to my vehicle. So,
I'll put it like this.
Waiting for, yes, I am the perpetrator.
Nobody's used squad cars since like the 80s. That went away. Squad cars like the 80s, 70s. Then it went to patrol vehicle. That's what you would see. Squad car was so old, nobody uses that anymore. Anyway,
so I don't know what the hell they're going to do with this. None of it makes any sense. And what kind of evidence do they actually have? Where's this kid's lawyer? We talked a number of times on the phone, but where's the damn autopsy? Apparently there is an autopsy. Candace Owens has said there is an autopsy. She's said she's verified that. But where is it? The autopsy is going to tell you something about the bullet. I mean, if the bullet didn't leave his body, if it's a frangible bullet, as Larry Johnson was saying, which means a soft exploding bullet that breaks up inside, which destroys the inside. So that's not a 30-06 fully jacketed. That's a bullet that could be a very small caliber bullet, but it explodes on the inside. It breaks up and it shreds the organs in your body, and that doesn't have an exit wound. That makes more sense. But you'll find the autopsy is evidence. Where is it? Where are the kids' parents? Why aren't they saying something? They, according to Candace Owens and her sources, not just her, but you know, she has some credibility, but her sources, you know, the parents didn't think he did it. They were told by this ex-cop that the cops think he did it, so he should turn himself in. And he hasn't said he did it. He apparently denies he does it. So where are the evidence? The only evidence is this damn Mauser, but they don't have the bullet that supposedly came from it. So there's a Mauser lying somewhere in a
well, they do apparently, because it came from under the skin, because it lodged under the skin.
Under the skin. So where is it?
And this is like a physical. Look, I'm telling you, I've been in court, spent a lot of days in court. There's only one thing you need to do in order to get off. You need reasonable doubt with one juror.
Yep.
Reasonable doubt with one juror, and you got a hung jury, but reasonable doubt. It's got to be beyond a what? Reasonable doubt. And some states will say to a moral certainty, some don't. Reasonable doubt. But if you look at this, and the guy just right off the bat, and the guy says, well, they said I jumped off the roof and I had a gun. Look at this. My legs are bending. That their story is wrong. I couldn't have possibly done this, and I can't shoot that well. I did what supposedly bring in a firearms expert. Yeah. Hey, I got a question. If you disassemble a gun and reassemble it, will it still be accurate? Well, you're going to have to sight it in again. Yeah. But he didn't. He fired one shot. And you know who fires one shot? What do snipers say? One shot, one kill.
Yeah.
Every time, if you look and see a drive-by shooting, what do you hear? Pop, 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 pop.
Yeah.
What does somebody do? Because they don't have the faith in their ability to shoot that they're going to shoot one shot. It's going to be always, if you find like somebody killed somebody, it was always pop, 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 multiple shots, because people don't know if they can hit them with one shot. Whoever fired this round sure had a lot of confidence in their shot, didn't they? Pow. And then there's this Zionist guy saying, shoot me, shoot me. Hey, everybody, come over here. Focus on me while the real killer gets away.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. And there's certainly nobody in the world can think that the evidence that's been presented, whatever, but what the story that's presented is beyond a reasonable doubt, proving to you beyond a reasonable doubt that this guy Tyler Robinson killed this. It's not only beyond a reasonable doubt; it's practically beyond belief that he did. So it's just nuts, and I don't know what they're going to do, because if this story falls apart, falls apart, they're going to look so ridiculous. I mean, they got this guy in custody. Have they actually filed charges against him?
I think he's been arraigned.
He's in custody. They wouldn't be in custody if they haven't.
Yeah, I think he's been arraigned.
Then they're going to look like idiots. I don't understand how they can get away with this. They're going to suicide him, or they got to try and put the story to bed that way, and somehow end the story by ending him. And nobody's going to believe that. I mean, are you kidding me? If
the cameras may go
suicide, off. It's like a joke. It's terrible.
But what are their options?
I don't know.
The story, it's not like if the story falls apart, it has already fallen apart.
I know.
Everybody's looked at it and said, well, come on now, let's be honest. I mean, this is not making a whole lot of sense.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe there's another story about this guy, Tyler Robinson, that we don't know about. Maybe he was 4 feet away from, he wasn't the kid whoever on that roof, that shot of the kid jumping off the roof, whoever that was, that camera had a view of the whole roof. That was 10 seconds after the shooting. That camera caught the shooting. If that kid that was jumping off the roof fired the shot off the roof, the camera would have caught that. And we would have, why haven't they shown us that? That's kind of crazy. I mean, so you have this very suspicious crap. So I don't know. I mean, maybe the kid on the roof wasn't Tyler Robinson. Maybe Tyler Robinson was standing 10 feet from Charlie Kirk and had a different kind of gun and shot. But we haven't. The story we're hearing so far is just baloney. It's baloney. And,
what is Tyler Robinson going to say about the infamous text message?
Yeah.
Is he going to say I did it? Is he going to say I didn't write that? I don't have any idea where that came from. Yeah. There's rumors out. We don't know that he's saying I didn't write that. But you know what? If I read that and he said, of course, any criminal is going to say, I didn't do it. Here's what he's going to say. But if he said that, I'd look at it and just say, yeah, he don't have to tell me he didn't write it. I'd look at it and I'm going to assume he's going to commit a crime. And in it, he's going to write a text message that tells us he planned on taking this secret to his grave. That's what he said.
I know, yeah.
To my grave. Now, let me tell you every damn thing that happened.
Let me tell you, I want to take it to my grave, but I'm going to lay it all right out here in my text messages because I'm sure nobody will ever read this.
Exactly. And then you read it and it's like, Tyler James Robinson, on February 10th, 2025, at approximately 1,600 hours. Wait a minute, 1,600 hours. You know what I mean? You're looking at it like, who the hell wrote this? I mean, I'm being a little facetious, but not so much.
Not so much, yeah.
I have never seen, and he's really smart. We're told he's a 4.0.
Yeah.
But it never dawned on him that the government may be at some point able to recover his
your text
messages. And
he never watched Law and Order. He never watched a television show, a cop show. I mean,
and why is it they always have no Twitter account, no Facebook account?
Yeah.
No TikTok account, nothing. There's no way to chase this kid down.
Yeah.
Well, at any rate, so let me ask you this. You ask yourself, the Iran stuff, and you look at it, and one last thing, because I see we're almost out of time, but it's like this. I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, not that I'm looking for rationality here. You already went in the bar and punched this guy, and he beat the hell out of you, and you barely got out with your, by the skin of your teeth. And, they pummeled Israel. Israel had to hide how much damage there was, how much money it cost, all this. They had to hide all of this stuff, right?
Yeah.
And now they're like, okay, we want a second round of that. And I keep saying this, well, it better be shorter than 12 days because you'll run out of damn anti-aircraft. Really, to be honest, I tell you who's really grinning, China. China's like, well, they want to come and go to war with us, but hey, they're wasting everything in Ukraine. They're wasting it here. They're wasting. It's absurd. Not that China wants war. I understand that, but I'm being facetious. But you get my point. It doesn't seem logical that they're in any position. And everything I'm reading is that apparently Iran has gotten a lot more weapons. They've got more air defense. They've gotten some of the upgraded MiG-29s, apparently. So they're stronger than they were before. And you don't have a 12 to 14-hour jump where their air defense system is going down. They know you're coming. They are lying in wait for this.
Well, look, Iran is strong. Israel knows it's strong. Iran is getting stronger. Israel knows that also. Okay, but Iran, I don't think Iran is, unless the Chinese and Russians are working those air defense systems and flying those planes, they're not fully capable with those things yet. So Iran, that's why Israel wants to strike quickly, because Iran is it is already strong and it's going to get stronger. It's also why Israel wants the United States involved in it, because they know they can't defeat them. Okay, and it's also why they're going to use nuclear weapons. I have no doubt about this. Israel knows they're going to get hit hard. They know they cannot get into a war of attrition. They want the Americans involved to cover them. They may tell the Americans, in fact, that maybe I've said this for a long time, they'll tell the Americans, you come in or else we'll use nuclear weapons. And the Americans will come in with them and they'll still use the nuclear weapons because the Americans will still stay in with them. They know that, okay? Israel knows that the only way it can quickly enough, the only thing they could think would quickly enough get Iran to stop fighting and to back off and to be set back on its feet for 10 years or so is nuclear weapons. That's the only thing. And I don't know why anybody in the world thinks that Israel has any hesitation at all about using nuclear weapons. They do not.
I give you one reason.
No,
Alistair Crook did say this when asked on, I think it was Judge Knapp, will they use, or I think it was Judge Knapp, they said to him, this was a while back, will Israel use nuclear weapons? I'll find it for you. Against Iran. He said no.
Why?
And they said why? He said because Israel knows that Iran has dozens of bases up in the mountains all over the place, but that they don't even, and those bases are basically a dead hand, that those bases have tens and tens of thousands of missiles. And their job is, if there's some kind of a nuclear or decapitation strike, to fire those missiles until they're gone at Israel and to flatten Israel. He said Iran has the capability to obliterate Israel with conventional weapons, and Israel knows it. Now, I'm not saying you're right. I'm not saying he's right. But I take a lot of stock in what Alistair Crook says.
Well, yeah,
so
yeah.
it is what it. We don't know what's going to happen. Hell, they may attack it. This may be a fake. They may be faking Iran. You know how Trump will do. We're going to fake Iran so we can really attack Venezuela, because attacking Venezuela is about money. It's about we're in deep financial trouble. We need to steal their oil, so that we can use this oil to get out of trouble. And they want, or to ultimately, I think now they realize they cannot militarily confront China, so they want to try to say, we'll take over the oil there, we'll take over the oil from Iran, and then bad news, Qatar and Kuwait and Saudi Arabia, you're getting overthrown. They're going to you're going to get killed, and they're going to put better puppets because you're a little too friendly. You're selling oil to China. You're selling oil to you're working with Russia and the what is it, OPEC plus?
Yeah.
Nope. Sorry. Leaders of those countries, they'll kill every one of you and replace you with a Zionist puppet. That's it. You cannot get in bed. It's a Faustian deal, and sooner or later the devil comes for your soul. They're planning on taking Venezuela, taking Iran, killing all of the leaders in those other countries, and replacing them with Zionist puppets. Now, I don't think it's going to be successful, but I do think that's their plan.
Yeah. Look, I think Alistair Cook is probably right about the thousands of missiles. Iran could and should. If they get into a war, what Iran should do, and I think I saw Larry Johnson talking about this on another show yesterday, what Iran should do is attack Israel with everything they have. Because if Israel goes away, nobody has anything to fight for anymore. And Iran should destroy Israel militarily as quickly as they can. Because that's what Israel is going to do with Iran. Israel knows this. What I'm saying is, even if that's true, what Larry Johnson says, what Alistair Cook says about Iran, and I think it is, Israel, it's not a rational system or not a rational calculus Israel is making. They have to show that we will destroy everything. Okay, not just Iran. We will destroy everything. And I hope I'm wrong, and I'll be very, very happy if I am, but I will be surprised if Israel doesn't use nuclear weapons and doesn't use them quickly if this bigger war with the United States and Israel takes place. And they will do it, and they'll hope that Iran will back off, will say, okay, we got to stop this. And I hope I'm wrong. And I don't think they're necessarily right about that. I mean, Alistair Cook, if they use nuclear weapons on Iran, that probably won't work. Because Iran's a big country, as you say, they have 10,000 rockets hidden away, and they're just going to come back. This is why Israel isn't necessarily going to save itself with Iran with using nuclear weapons, but they think they can. That's the only thing they think can save them. That's the problem.
Yeah, it's just an absolute mess, and we keep trying because let's face it, a lot of us. I was 50-50 on whether the Israelis would attack the flotilla and kill everybody. I kind of maybe was 51-49 that they would, but I thought maybe there's possibility. A lot of people really thought absolutely that they would, but when it came down to it, they didn't. We could talk about why at another time, but they didn't. So, and again, for all we know, this could all be a fake on Iran. Because
and I'll say that too. I'll say that for myself too.
Or the other way around, huh?
I'll say it about the flotilla for myself. I thought Israel would make a point of sinking one of those ships, and they haven't. So I was wrong about that so far.
But we don't know. You know what? With these kind of things, there's times when you're glad when you're wrong.
Yeah,
because you assume the worst. 100%. And right now, I feel like between Venezuela and Iran, one of them is a head fake.
Right.
One of them is a head fake. I don't think they're going to take. I think they're going to head
it's
fake.
It's Venezuela. That's the head fake. It's not Iran. But if one of them is a head fake, I think it's Venezuela. But
me too.
Yeah.
Me too. But for people, it's funny because people don't. They're like, oh yes, they can take out Venezuela. They can. Man, it's be a mistake. But those people will fight to the last. They will fight. They will fight. You know, years ago, I didn't know before I went to Venezuela, but years ago, I read and I was reading people saying, well, the reason they won't attack Venezuela is because then they'd have to go in, and you can't go in Venezuela. You can't hold it. You can't. The people will fight to the last man, woman, and child. And Chavez and everybody, they gave arms to everybody. There's gigantic militias. And then when I went there, and I'm like, holy crap, it's far worse than that. They're prepped for armed struggle, buddy. So,
Good.
you know, oh yeah, they'll fight. They will. Every last person will fight.
And I think, you know, I'm sure the Americans think, and I'm sure they do have people in the ruling class who, you know, will, you know, the Ahmed Chalabis of Venezuela and the Guaidos who come in and, you know, sit in the chair in the presidential palace. But I don't think the military, they might have a couple of officers on the payroll, but there's going to be, the military is going to fight. I think by and large, the military will fight for the country. And there may be a civil war that they initiate in Venezuela, but that's not going to be an easy thing. And again, the Americans are going to send troops in there.
You can't have a civil war there. I'll tell you why. When you go to Guaido's part of town, you know what you see? You see Mercedes-Benz dealers, Rolex dealers, blah, blah, blah. Those people ain't armed. They ain't fighting. Yeah. But on the other side of town, all of the rest of the town, the little smaller part of town where these rich people are, they're soft.
Yep.
And they're driving Jags.
But
the whole rest of the old other 75% of the country, as I've said, you got about 60% of the people that are diehard Chavez, and they support Maduro. You got about another 10 to 15% that don't support Maduro only because they think he's too far to the left. I mean, to the right, and they're diehard communists, and they're like, he's a right winger. We don't want this guy. He's selling out to the empire. You know, to them, he's too far to the right. Well, you know, they're ready to fight. Yep. And then you got somewhere between 25 to 30%, which are the Juan Guaido contingent, and they ain't fighting. So you can't have a civil war with a bunch of rich, fat people that ain't fighting.
That's
all
right.
The poor people got nothing to lose, and they're armed.
That's good. That's exactly what they need. They did it, and they needed. That's what they didn't do. We didn't arm the people, and but if the Chavistas and Maduro and Chavez have armed the people, that's the strongest the strongest impediment to American imperialism.
He's arming the people, and he took over the military academies.
Yep.
So the Chavistas, who are indigenous, or they're black and indigenous mixed, whatever, they all dominate and went through the academies. Exactly. So the people who are in the military and are running the military are the most diehard Chavistas. They ain't fighting. They
didn't go to School of the Americas. They didn't do any of this. They didn't go to West Point and have this exchange bullshit. They stay in the country and they learn and fight for their country. So that's, I hope that's all true. I think it is generally true, and I expect that if the Americans want to play this game, they're going to find out it's a lot harder than they think.
Real bad. Yeah, that ain't no place to be. At any rate, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Everybody go to Jim Kavanaugh's Substack. Don't forget, there's no you in Jim Kavanaugh. I made that error earlier.
There'll be serious consequences for putting a U in there.
All right,
I got my 30-06.
Yeah, there you go. And well, I ain't worried about 30-06s. They barely pierced the skin.
Yeah.
All right. But all right, thanks a lot, everybody.
Thank you. That was fun.
On all your social media platforms, and if you can, you see everything scrolling across the bottom. If you can donate, that would be great. If not, as long as you share this on all your social media platforms, Jim and I are happy. We're out.